Hello! I hit the wrong button. Hello, that's the right button. And welcome to a special edition of Adventures in History. Yeah, we've got a little flamey background thing kicking here. Check that junk out. Yeah, things are looking different. I did a thing, or at least a bit of a thing. Do I have COVID too? No, I don't have COVID. But I will state that I have had a pretty crappy day. But I hope that changes now that things are perhaps a little bit more settled. But yeah, it's not been a good day. Not every day can be a good day, but today was an exception even to that. Like, let's just see how bad we can get. We don't have to go into all of that, but I'm glad that you all are here, and I apologize for starting off the stream by grouching for like 45 seconds. Yeah, my voice is different. I've been talking a whole lot, and I had 2 long classes today, so I had to talk for about how long is that? I've already talked for like 5 hours today. Dropping lots of frames and sounding weird. I did not have to yell at punk kids on my lawn. I don't know what 6,000 kbps is. I show that I'm streaming fine at 60 frames per second. And it's not saying that I'm dropping frames on this end. Maybe I should have some tea. I would love some tea, but I did not have time to make tea. And it just wasn't going to happen. I started trying to set up the stream, and basically everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And yeah, it's been an interesting last 45 minutes or so. But again, we are here, and this is Adventures in History. And this is a special episode where we are going to do some stuff that we've never really done before, which is go through a song and talk about lyrics and such. I guess I should also say that it's because the seasons are changing. I am having all sorts of really fun, like, allergy kind of things. So that could also be part of the reason why there are vocal differences. Am I at least intelligible? Is it making weird noises like screechy things or feedbacky things or such? Or is it just like, Shane sounds funny? Loud and clear, just sound like a surfer. Oh, well, I guess that's that's something. I keep tweaking the little photograph guy here, and I don't know, it's just bothering me. I'm going to get it just right, and then in the next picture it'll be a little bit off because each picture is a little bit different. That'll work. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Okay, so yeah, there was a community goal where some people in the community said, hey, it would be really cool if we did a stream and went through the lyrics of We Didn't Start the Fire. And you talk about all the people that are in We Didn't Start the Fire. And I'm like, yeah, that actually would be really cool. So we ran a community goal, and the community came through. And from that point, I have been working on putting this together. And let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff in this song. A lot of stuff. There are 118 references in this song. And when I went to make an outline for the particular episode, normally my outlines go about 2 pages in a Word document. and sometimes 2.5 or so. Like the one from medieval Poland was about 2.5 pages of outline. Just setting up the basic outline without even filling stuff out was already 5 pages worth of lines, and I thought, oh wow, this is kind of crazy stuff. Let me watch this clip of myself talking, like allergy kind of things. So that could also be part of the reason. Yeah, that's just allergy head. Just the allergies. It looks like Truman has demons in his eyes. I guess I should have started with a picture of Billy Joel. I don't even have a picture of Billy Joel. That's how crazy this whole situation has been. It's been a tough prep. It's been a very long prep, and I figured out that it was going to be a really, really long stream, and I figured that it would probably take somewhere between 3.5 and 4 hours if I was lucky, and maybe 4.5 hours if I wasn't. And I said, that's really, really long. Normally I don't stream more than about 2 hours, and 4.5 hours is like huge-o. So we're going to split it. We're going to do this part today, and then we're going to come back and do part 2 tomorrow as a sort of special bonus stream to throw in some more content to also give me a little bit of a break, considering I've already talked a whole bunch today. So, I guess we should talk a little bit about the actual song. So this is We Didn't Start the Fire. It's by a guy named Billy Joel. And it came out in 1989. And the song is basically set up to cover the years of Billy Joel's life. So he was born in 1948. And the song goes through historical references that happened from 1948 to 1989. And just like any good writer, he front loads a whole bunch of stuff. So a lot of the references are really, really sort of compacted at the very beginning. And then when he realizes that otherwise the song would go on for 10 minutes, he's like, let's just cover half of a decade with 3 or 4 references. So a lot of the stuff that takes place in this is actually a combined, or I'm not saying this the right way. Basically, the stuff is front-loaded as older part of history. There's more stuff from the 40s than there is from the 80s. And there's more stuff from the 50s than there are from the 70s. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, hey, Finesse. I'm not doing very great. I'm having kind of a crappy day, but I'm pleased to be streaming, and I'm hoping that makes the day better. So I always try to be honest when people ask me how my day is, and today has just not been so great. If you could have seen the mod chat that I have with Mac in a lab coat and KP, I said lots of the dirty words today in the mod chat. At one point, I said that this entire day can kiss my butt, but I did not use the word butt. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you a picture here. Even Fiddlestick, yeah, for real. So I'm going to show you a picture like of this guy. And we're going to talk about who they are. So this is Harry Truman. Harry Truman is in the song because, again, the song starts in 1948. And Harry Truman was running for president. This is after he had fulfilled the partial term for FDR. So remember that in the middle, well, I guess towards the end of World War II, FDR actually dies. And that was in the beginning of his 4th term as president. And Truman, being the vice president, is going to take over as president and served part of FDR's 4th term. Then he was going to run again. This is a point where a lot of people did not necessarily think that Truman was going to win. You see the famous Dewey defeats Truman headline moment. But Truman did in fact win. That's how you're doing. Yeah, I'm also having some allergy stuff kicking my butt today, so I feel you, Finesse. I hope you get to feeling better yourself, man. I did say a word that starts with those first 2 letters, Figment, several times. So here we go. First reference, first lines of the song, Harry Truman. As always, you all are welcome to throw in the bad jokes or the dad jokes or the puns or the questions if you've got them. I do not mind elaborating about any of this stuff. I did just prepare sort of a bare bones reference for each one of these people, because if I did a whole prep on every single one of these, this would have been like a 9 or 10 part series, right? All right. So moving along, boom, we have Doris Day. Doris Day. This is from the Truman Show, right? How did he? No, not that Truman, not that Truman. What did I just do there? Doris Day. Doris Day was a very, very famous actress. Her debut film was in 1948. It was called Romance of the High Seas. But Doris Day went on to star in dozens and dozens of movies, and she was also a very successful recording artist. She had lots and lots of records, recorded hundreds, like literally hundreds of songs back then. And that's a little bit weird for musicians back then. If you know anything about a lot of the popular musicians, the 40s and 50s were sort of a like 2 or 3 hit wonder kind of scenario where you'd get 3 or 4 records that would do well and that would be the end of you. But Doris Day recorded hundreds of records in her career, and is pretty cool stuff. So you thank God that Truman made it so that presidents can go around Congress to start wars illegally. Oh, KP. Too true. Too true. Hey, JMR, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Dude, I just saw your birthday boy emote. That's that is absolutely great. You love Doris Day. Figment, do you have a favorite song that we should listen to as a reference? Or do you have a favorite movie with Doris Day that you can refer to? And if anybody knows any additional cool stuff about these people, other than just the sort of, again, bare bones thing that I'm sharing, you are absolutely welcome to pitch in some additional material. All right, so the next one is Red China. Red China. Yeah, so here's the thing. There was a really, really long civil war in China that started back at the early part of the pre-World War I Chinese world. And this is after the last of the Chinese emperors abdicated, and there was a brief struggle where the guy that was supposed to be the good guy ended up being the bad guy, and then we end up back in the Civil War, and we do have a democratic election, but the Democratic Party of China becomes fairly adamant that they're not going to allow the Communist Party to have a vote, and this is going to sever the country of China in half, where it remains all the way up until 1949, when the Red Chinese Communist Party is going to win. So this is the big war between Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek, where Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang Democratic Party is pushed off to the island of Taiwan, and Mao Zedong takes over as a dictator in China. Calamity Jane, the movie, and Windy City, the song, which he has several songs that you love. This is where Taiwan comes from. Well, so Taiwan was always an island, right? They didn't just make it. And I do have to make that distinction because China is in the sort of the business of making islands right now. But yeah, the whole Taiwan issue that's going on right now in China comes from this particular moment where the United States sort of had this question of, well, most big countries in the world had this question of which government of China they were going to recognize as the official government of China. Was it going to be Chiang Kai-shek and his democratically elected people on the island of Taiwan, or was it going to be Mao Zedong and his communist group? So there we go. Fair caveat, yeah. China's in the business of making islands. and it's kind of messy. It wasn't Mao. Yeah, it wasn't Mao. All right. So, Red China. Where's my... I've lost my notes. Dadgummit. There we go. This is Johnny Ray. All right, so Johnny Ray was... I don't know, are you not entertained? Is that not why you are here? Steve. Steve with the raid. For those of you that do not know Steve, you should totally know Steve. Steve is a pretty cool dude. He is a good art streamer that has an amazing amount of time to help people for what they're doing. You made the hag look like a total joke. And he also plays video games. He's been playing Darkest Dungeon, and he's named all of his characters after people that are in his chat. And apparently, I just punked a boss. So I'm a bounty hunter in the Darkest Dungeon, by the way. So if you're not already following Steve, please do go follow Steve. He's a really cool guy and has an amazing talent, and is just a really cool, nice person that will help people out and does so. You and David Peterson are a dynamic duo of death. That's actually pretty great. Okay, so I've missed some stuff. So for those of you that don't know from Steve's channel, my name is Shane. I am a college teacher. And this is... I'm a college teacher in real life, so I teach history and sociology. And this is Adventures in History, where we talk about history. We are doing a special stream tonight and tomorrow where we are going through the lyrics of We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. And I'm just saying a little bit about all of the different historical references in that song. And we're still in the first verse, so you all came in pretty early. If you want to hang around and ask questions, you're welcome to. If you just want to make really bad jokes or puns, those are also welcome. I feel like I've missed some chat here. It's actually messed up because China gets mad when Hong Kong or Taiwan get recognized as independent countries. Yes, that is absolutely true, Batbird. That is true. They do get rather ticked off. So we do have some other streamers in the room. Let's go ahead and do some other shout outs while we're at it. Go follow I Am Batbird, who is also a really great artist and has a really cool chat and does both digital and traditional art styles. You should go check that out. And we've got J Mark Killer hanging around, who is a game streamer, but also has started building some models and Lego stuff on stream, so you can go hang out with JMR. Really cool guy. Lots of interesting things to chat about in the room. Very positive energy. You can't help but smile while you're hanging out with JMR. So you got to go follow these people because they're the cool stuff, and I say so. So you're in my room. All right, so we're talking about Johnny Ray right now, and Johnny Ray is sort of an interesting character because he gets credit for a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't think he necessarily deserves. He is one of the first people that gets a lot of traction playing rock and roll music. And in 1949, which is the year of the song that he's sort of representing, he signs one of his first record deals. Now, the fact that he gets sort of credited with a lot of the rock and roll progenitor stuff is, again, a bit controversial, especially because a lot of the things that influenced him and other early rock and rollers were musicians of color, especially blues singers and guitar players from places down in the South. So whether or not Johnny Ray came up with this stuff out of a vacuum, I think that we get to say pretty heartily no on that. You thought both mainland China and Taiwan agrees that Taiwan is China. Oh, well, you know, this sounds like rock and roll. Yeah, it does. It does. So Johnny Ray, his stuff is pretty good. And I actually had never really been exposed to very much of his music. And I took an opportunity a couple of days ago to listen to some of his stuff, and it's pretty good. I would throw it in the rotation if I were going to play some stuff. There's a lot of good... Well, I mean, if you've ever listened to the really, really old rock and roll stuff, you know that it doesn't necessarily sound like Metallica or Nirvana or anything like that. But go give Johnny Ray a listen. He's got some pretty cool stuff. All right. Next, we have South Pacific. And I don't know if I necessarily need to type a note about this one because I think you can see that it's, South Pacific here. South Pacific was, and I guess still might be, I don't know if they're actually still doing it on Broadway anywhere. But South Pacific is one of the famous Rodgers and Hammerstein Broadway dramas. This was humongous. It was really, really big and won all sorts of awards. It had all sorts of big, and it's even based on award-winning stuff. So it's based on this like Pulitzer Prize winning book, and it had some pretty big actors and actresses that were in it. South Pacific was a pretty big deal, and it's still okay. So I think that I don't know if it's still being shown or not. I don't know if you can still go see it or not, but it wins Pulitzer Prize. It wins Tonys for Best Musical. It has all sorts of really big, really, really big awards associated with it. Good gracious, I can't say words today. You got really hyped for this stream because at your day job you listen to Q104.3 Classic Rock and this song plays quite a bit. Oh, nice, cool. Do you know Idris Debney Itno? I don't know Idris Debney Itno. I can Google that. Should I know Idris Debney Itno? I know where Chad is. Idris Deby is the president or former president of Chad, according to the Google, and apparently died just earlier this year. I will be absolutely honest and say that I do not know an overwhelmingly large amount about the internal politics of the country of Chad. I know broad stroke things. For example, I know that they are fighting a pretty big battle with militant, very strict Islamic forces that are up in their north and eastern portions. I know that they have had a lot of trouble with groups like Boko Haram in the past. I know that they are unfortunately also dealing with some pretty severe water crises, especially in the northern parts of the country. And I know that there were some hopes that some mining and oil stuff would pan out. Oh, that's a bad pun. Would create a bigger economic stimulus in the country than they actually did a few years ago. But I can't say that I know an overwhelmingly large amount about what's going on a day-to-day operational system in Chad. King Get No, are you from Chad? If so, you would be my first person from Chad in the stream. I really should start a map. Cool. Well, welcome. Okay, so there's South Pacific. This is Walter Winchell. Oh, crud, I hit the wrong button again, didn't I? Where did my images... Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so Walter Winchell was at the time a media reporter, and he was mostly on the radio, but he also did some writing stuff. And Walter Winchell was going to be one of the sort of, not necessarily the first, but one of the loudest voices that starts what becomes sort of the paranoia about communism. And Walter Winchell's writing and radio show sort of turned into the communists are out to get us hour. And he was pretty influential in pushing this to a lot of people in the media. And if you know anything about the Cold War, you will know that there was already quite a bit of fear going around already, and journalists and radio. I get print journalists and radio journalists like Walter Winchell were some of the people that were sort of ushering in this longer and better kind of not better, more active anti-communist fervor, if you will. Hey, a drop bear, good to see you. Better dead than red. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes around, and again, this is just bare bones about these people. And it is fair to say that a lot of stuff that Walter Winchell wrote originally might fall today under tabloid journalism. There's a lot of stuff that he wrote that, like before he got on the communist angle, he wrote a lot of stuff that was either potentially considered yellow journalism, or like Walter Winchell would have been fine with TMZ. Right today, if you know what TMZ is, and then he sort of had a familiarity, popular base already, and then when he switched over to the communist angle, it sort of had some of that same flavor, if that makes any sense. So there's a little bit going on with Walter Winchell. All right, so this is Joe DiMaggio, and there's even songs made about this guy, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio, of course, is a super famous baseball player. He is in this song right here in 1949, though, because this is the year that Joe DiMaggio signed with the New York Yankees. And in 1949, he signed a contract with the New York Yankees for $100,000. $100,000. In 1949. So just like imagine how much money that would be today. And I'm sure that there's some calculator out there where you could go calculate it out. But that was a humongous contract. And it actually made a whole bunch of people very, very upset because, he's just a baseball player. And I would love to see those people's reactions to some of the sports stars. He was also the world's worst baseball player for the world's worst baseball team. Moose, is that coming by any chance because you live in a state where the Yankees typically beat up on the local baseball team? Are you an Orioles fan? So $1 in 1949 is worth $30.86 today. Okay, so that would mean that his contract at that time was for I don't do math very well. Okay, Mac in a lab coat says 100,000 today is worth 100. Is that okay? So that's only like $1 million. So that's still a crap ton of money, but it's not as much as some of the people do today. That happens, yes, and they drive down to our stadium for the games because it's cheaper to travel to our games than to go to their home games. I am not a Yankees fan either, Moose. So I don't necessarily have anything against the Yankees. I just don't really care for them. They're not necessarily my team. When I cared about baseball, I was an Atlanta Braves fan, but that's because I'm in the South, and that's really the only team that we have down here. All right, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio, one of the best baseball players ever, and yes, was associated with Miss Marilyn Monroe, and we're getting to her. But first, we've got to talk about this lovely gentleman, whom I think everybody, well, I don't know if you know who this guy is or not, but this is Joe McCarthy. Oh, Joe McCarthy. Joe McCarthy, fairly famous for being a giant jerk. Was a senator in the United States Congress and spent a lot of his time pointing fingers at people and calling them communists. And for a little while, he was one of the more powerful figures in American politics because he claimed to have all this information about these secret communists that were infiltrating America. And this is, of course, when the government was putting people's names on lists, and you could be blacklisted or red listed or pink listed, and everybody was a secret communist, and you were turning people in. People were ratting on people and naming names to people, and it was just really bad. McCarthy eventually did fall out of favor after he basically verbally abused some war vets on national television. Well, a lot of those people were secret communists, just not all of them. Well, I mean, that's fair to point out as well. The Russians were absolutely successful in getting a lot of their spy people in fairly high-level ranking positions within the United States. I just don't think that McCarthy knew who they were. I think that McCarthy said that they were there and then got lucky to find them. And I think that he really didn't have any sort of inside information. He was just making a decent guess, and then turned up a couple of situations where he turned over a rock and there were actual communists under there, and that made everybody panic. Do you have no decency, sir? Exactly. My lovely wife knows the quote where the opposing counsel in McCarthy's little committee sort of chewed McCarthy out on live TV for criticizing these vets. Post-McCarthy, McCarthyism was way worse. It was indeed. That's also a fair point to point out, because at that point the government had effectively created an apparatus to surveil its own citizens, and that's when we basically start losing all of our privacy. Pointing at people and calling them communist. Well, there's a good weekend plan right there. Exactly. Compared to McCarthy, people like Gates and all that Looney Tunes woman are that bad. I think they are not. That's not necessarily comparing apples to apples. I think that they can all be bad, and I don't think that excuses any of the crazy now, just because it was a different kind of crazy back then. And in a certain way, and I'm absolutely not trying to take sides with McCarthy or anything. There was a much more significant threat of communist infiltration than there were Jewish people with lasers on the moon. So yeah, I think that we can still call certain people today Looney Tunes, right? There are no Jewish space lasers, by the way. Oh crap, this is the wrong Nixon picture. Okay, so this was supposed to be the picture of Nixon campaigning for president, because he was at that point running for the Senate and had the idea of running for president. This is, I guess, him being inaugurated as president, so this is the wrong Richard Nixon picture. I do apologize. Nixon was getting into the Senate around this time period. And he was going to be sort of a rising star side of the Republican Party. Everybody knew he had big goals. He actually ran against Kennedy later on and loses, and then of course runs, and then does actually finally become president. Only atheist space lasers exist. At this juncture, I am not certain that there are space lasers at all. What about Studebaker? Am I spelling that right? Yes, Studebaker. Studebakers are cars, and that doesn't fit very well on the notes thing here. Where are you going? Yeah, we're going to move you. It'll shrink you down a little bit. There we go. Studebakers. These are types of cars. And the Studebakers were pretty popular for quite a while. And they had a lot of really good lines running back into the 40s. By the time we have entered the 50s, by the way, and by the time that we entered the 50s, the Studebaker, which had been one of the more popular cars in America, was going to start goofing up. And they made some pretty bad investment decisions, and their cars did not catch on as well, and they were not as able to keep up with the changing trends. And they also had a lot more competition because there were other car companies in the 50s that were ramping up and making very popular lines. So Studebakers are really big at the time, but they are going to start going away fairly soon after this. And I think their last model is like in 58 or 59. So there you go. Studebaker. Television. Whoop. Everybody loves TV, right? Well, this is actually a picture of the first mass-produced television in the world. This is the RCA first home model with a big honking 8-inch screen that was all black and white. Still has really big vacuum tubes in the back of it. Was really only capable of picking up about 1 or 2 channels. And of course, there were only 1 or 2 channels. You could crush a person with that thing. Yeah, and the TV would be fine after you did it. Television, of course, is going to become one of the more important parts of American culture. And a lot of the stuff that we sort of refer to today are because of the inventions of television. So, you remember TV, only just. You've been streaming everything since about 2013. And torrenting before then, right? Well, are you watching everything on your computer? So, like, my front TV, I don't have cable anymore either. But it's actually hooked to a computer, so I use my big Samsung television as a glorified computer monitor. So it works pretty well. So, all right, so there we go. Television. All right, so we're actually going to double dip a little bit on this one here. This is North Korea, South Korea. Now, we know that North and South Korea are a thing, and we know that they are a pretty big deal. So at this point in 1950, the Korean War is going to start. And they're originally going to be trying to get rid of the Japanese after World War II. But of course, that is going to end up turning into a fairly involved civil war, where the United Nations is going to get involved. The United Nations is going to end up sending troops from various countries to the region in order to try to establish a peacekeeping force that's going to actually turn into an active war. And we all know that the Korean War goes on for another 3 years or 4 years after this. And it's technically still going on right now. They never actually signed an official treaty to it. They just signed a ceasefire. So, yeah, start and technically still not, yeah, exactly. Here it comes. So Figment, I mean, we don't have to go through the whole Korean War. I'm just saying, like, we're gonna do a little bit. We're still not even halfway through this material for tonight. So, is there very much to the Korean War? You barely remember anything about it, unlike other wars that the U.S. was involved with, and there's a reason for that. There are people that refer to the Korean War as the Forgotten War, and yeah, there's quite a bit to it. There was a point in the Korean War where we almost went to war with China, to the point that the American government had to relieve Douglas MacArthur from command because he was about to invade China. It's a pretty big deal, and there's a lot of early Cold War stuff that gets set up during that point that is going to have ramifications that are still being felt today. The reason that North Korea is so buddied up with China is because China decided that they did not want a democratic ally to have a border directly by them, and they basically flooded North Korea with support, which is why America came into conflict with them in the first place. If it wasn't for the Korean War, we wouldn't have had MASH, indeed, which is a really good show. All right, so here we go. Here's Marilyn herself. Of course, Marilyn Monroe is one of the most famous actresses and models basically in the world. She was a fashion icon. She was everywhere. She was the big deal at the time. She actually really didn't star in that many movies. She was only in like 5 or 6 movies. But everybody knows Marilyn Monroe. She was sort of the cultural zeitgeist and was involved with a lot of big name people like John F. Kennedy and Joe DiMaggio. Happy birthday, Mr. President, right? There you go. So there's Marilyn Monroe. And that actually brings us to the end of the first verse. Yeah, look at there. And it only took us, 45 minutes. Yeah, so we need to like a Kardashian of the time. Oh, Joey, I don't want to necessarily compare her to that. There's still a lot of espionage that goes on with Korea and their neighboring countries. Absolutely. Allegedly. All right. Let's see if we can make some steam. So these are the Rosenbergs. Rosenbergs. Good gracious. Rosenbergs. And my computer just froze on me. Don't know what's going on here. And I'm back. Don't know what that was, but there it was. Rosenbergs. So the Rosenbergs, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg, were arrested. They were convicted of espionage. They're some of the first people that were convicted under the Espionage Act during the Cold War. And there's still a lot of questions about whether or not they were actually guilty of the crimes that they were accused of and convicted of. To a certain extent, some stuff has come out to sort of look like they weren't actually as involved as they might have been. They were accused with basically smuggling out all sorts of technology, like nuclear technology and radar technology and stuff like that. Whether or not they were actually guilty, we could probably have an entire stream on that. Windows is being Windows. That's fairly accurate. Also, OBS gonna OBS. All right. What about H-bombs? Here we go. Boom. There's an H-bomb. Okay, so the nuclear bombs that the United States dropped on Japan were not built around hydrogen. They were fission bombs. They were based around either uranium or plutonium. The H-bomb is a completely different animal. It is a fusion bomb, and it's actually substantially more powerful. The concept of a fusion bomb had actually been brought up during the Manhattan Project. It had been sort of shelved as not necessarily viable at the time. But H-bombs are big deals, and they are orders of magnitude more powerful than fission bombs. And these are the ones that would probably rain down from the sky right now if we were going to blow each other to pieces. And we very much could wipe out all life on Earth with these big fun things, right? All right, moving along, we have Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray Robinson, who was one of the most successful boxers at the time. There is a very famous fight that happened in 1951. We have crossed into 1951, by the way. So in one of the more famous sort of one-sided / lopsided heavyweight championship bouts of boxing, Sugar Ray Robinson here is going to basically beat the devil out of this guy named Jake LaMotta. There was a little bit of a moment because of this. So without getting too far into it, the famous boxers in America are typically going to be allied or involved with particular ethnic identities, and a lot of the early ones were Irish, and then a lot of the other ones after the Irish were sort of Italian. And Sugar Ray Robinson is one of the sort of the first kind of prominent black boxers. Not that he was the only one, there were others out there. But the fact that he beat the devil out of Jake LaMotta so badly, the fight ends up going on to be referred to as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, in reference to the mob hit. So yeah, just beats the devil out of him. Like, H-bombs are like Ligers, they're bred for their skill and magic. Unfortunately not. We had a Manhattan Project stream not too long ago. We did. And yeah, we'll just... I loved it when he did that to the brushes. All right, so next one is Panmujom. Panmujom. And I spelled that wrong. It's Panmujom. Sorry. Okay, so in 51,
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Fed. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good one. And thank you so much for that sub. It is very much appreciated.
I'm Spartacus!
Joey is Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
Everybody is Spartacus. Isn't Spartacus, but did break the dam. Oh, drop bear. Good stuff. Okay, so this is the building at Panmunjom, and this was the site of some attempts at bringing the Korean War to a close. And at this point in the war, things were very, very different looking than they were at the end of the war. There was...
I'm Spartacus!
Everybody is Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Joey, thank you so much for the gift sub. And JMR, welcome to being Spartacus. You are now Spartacus. Thank you all so much for that. I greatly appreciate all of those. So anyway, yeah, this was a building where they were basically trying to bring the Korean War to an end at Panmunjom. The talks did not go very well, and there was a pretty clear consensus that neither side was necessarily interested in kind of backing down at that point, and the war continued on. All right, here we go. Here's Brando. Oh, Brando. I'm going to two-line this. Marlon Brando. He's a pretty big dude. You know him. He's a pretty famous actor. He was in a lot of stuff at this time. He was pretty famously in Streetcar Named Desire around this time. Goes on to play Don Corleone in The Godfather. Stella! Exactly. So, there you go. Marlon Brando. One of the sort of heartthrob actors of the time. I remember having to watch that when I was in high school. We had to read Streetcar Named Desire, and we ended up watching the movie with him and Blanche Dubois and all of that fun stuff. All right, so here we go. The King and I. This is another one of these Rodgers and Hammerstein productions. This is going to open up in Broadway first. Of course, this does go on to become a successful movie as well. Yul Brynner playing the King of Thailand, and Deborah Kerr playing the magical white woman that saves him. That's all of that stuff. Yul Brynner was the man. Yeah, he's a pretty cool actor. Interesting choice for the King of Siam, though, I do have to say. That's before he would have been canceled on Twitter for that. So, yeah. It's a pretty good... I've never actually seen it live, but I have seen the movie, and it's a pretty good movie. It's got good sets. Interesting choice for a Cajun cowboy, too. Right? Right? All right, so here we go. Catcher in the Rye. Man, is my image stuff not working here? We're gonna... It looks like we might be stuck on King and I. Are you all singing Catcher in the Rye, or are you all still singing King and I? There we go. I fixed it. Okay, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Man, so this is one of those books that was super controversial. Uh, if you read it today, in today's world, there's nothing controversial about it at all. But when it came out, it was very much pushing the boundaries for what people thought was acceptable in public. This book was one that ended up getting pulled out of public libraries. It was banned from school reading lists. Second opportunity for a South Park reference. Kill the phonies. Phonies! Yeah, so Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. It's a pretty good book. It's not my favorite book in the world, I'll just be honest. The reason it sort of got a lot of flack is because it's really like these bunch of kids who just don't do the right thing. They're all sort of like thumbing their nose at the authorities, and they're all being like super angsty, and it was just like it was going to encourage the children to be horrible, so we can't let them read it, sort of thing. It's not so bad. It's not what everybody thought it was, but for decades, Catcher in the Rye was going to be banned from school reading lists. So I thought what I'd do is I'd pretend I was one of those deaf mutes. Is that a laughing man emote? Oh, Batbird. Dude. That is so great. That is so great. I love Ghost in the Shell. I love that so much. And that was such a good series. Such a good series. If you all have not seen Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, go watch it. It is friggin' amazing. It's one of Batbird's emotes. So you can go subscribe to Batbird, and then you can use the Laughing Man emote. Dude, I friggin' love Ghost in the Shell. Friggin' love it. All right, so we're moving up in time, and we've crossed over into 1952, and we have Eisenhower. Dwight D. Eisenhower was a military commander. He was one of the leaders of the Allied forces during World War II. And he is going to run for president in 1952 and just crushes the opponents. He was a very, very popular president, ran for a second term and won it as well. I like Ike. And was sort of prescient. And to be fair, Drop Bear, he did not just say that we should be aware of the military-industrial complex. He actually said that we need to be aware of the military-industrial economic complex. So he even had terms in there that people today don't even want to include, because we all know that military makes money, right? As a speculative note, you thought it was congressional. You've seen the Ghost in the Shell movie? Yeah, so the original movie, so there's the movie, and then there's actually a sequel to the movie. But then there was an anime series that was called Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and there were 2 seasons of that, both of which are absolutely excellent. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of been added after that, some of which is less good than others. So, yeah. Scarlett Johansson. So Eisenhower was one of the military commanders that sort of organized and oversaw the D-Day invasion of Normandy during World War II. Yes. So, yeah, go watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. All right, so there you go. Eisenhower. You like Ike. Okay, so you can poke holes in basically any president ever, and because human beings are fallible, everybody does things that you don't like, but if we look at Eisenhower's foreign policy, he was probably the last president that had a good foreign policy. If you look at his domestic policy, it was kind of garbage. But anyway, Eisenhower was an okay guy. But you read about him and you were surprised. Yeah, he has a lot of pretty far-reaching concepts, but he punked out on a lot of things that he could have done. He could have done a lot to push forward the civil rights movement, and he didn't. He had the popularity and the overwhelming support of the people. He could have. The civil rights movement did not have to wait until later presidents. It could have picked up a lot more steam under him. All right, so who is this guy? This is so the lyric here goes Eisenhower vaccine, but the vaccine that they're talking about is the one for polio. That was created by this guy. Correct, Drop Bear. That is Jonas Salk, who invented the polio vaccine and was, of course, one of the people that sort of pioneered the modern concept of eliminating congenital viruses and stuff through vaccine. I don't think I have to elaborate the point of the benefit of vaccines to society. I think we can just sort of understand, right? And I think we can kind of just leave it there. Yes, and he gave it away for free. All right, we are still lagging. And I was trying to make up time, but I am not making up a lot of time. So the next line is, England's got a new queen. So here we are. This is Queen Elizabeth II at her coronation in 1952. And she's still queen. And it's been 70-something years later, so there you go. But how many died because of his vaccines? How many people didn't die because of his vaccines? That's the. We don't want anybody to die, right? But there you go. All right, moving along. Not just a new queen in Canada and Australia, New Zealand. Oh yeah, and all of the territories and all the commonwealths and all of all that fun stuff. So. Though by this point, Australia was, well, I don't know, they still say they're, anyway, yeah. I think Canada's prime minister still technically says an oath to support the Queen. But I think it's all just sort of formal at this point. Yeah, Jamaica, yeah. And the British Virgin Islands and all that stuff too. All right, here we go. This is Rocky Marciano, who became the world heavyweight champ, which we see right here. Marciano defeated a guy named Joe Walcott in a big, famous boxing match here in 1952 and became the world heavyweight champion. There we go. In Australia, anyone under 40 doesn't give a crap about the Queen. Or a lot of us over 42. If the Queen is on your money, she is your queen. Well, that's a fair point, Batbird. That's a fair point. Rocky Marciano, very famous fighter. And again, this sort of plays back into what I was talking about earlier. Rocky Marciano was an Italian guy, so the famous boxers have a tendency to be associated with one of the larger ethnic groups inside of the country. At the time. She's still driving a car. I don't know. She might still be. I know that she's very stingy about electricity and will walk through the house at Buckingham and turn lights off. All right, so how about this? I think that in order to save time, what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to hide this guy. And I think that I'm going to hide this guy. And I think that we will just sort of... we'll just go by me telling you who these people are. And I'll maybe... I don't know. Maybe I'll turn that back on. I don't know. I was just trying to find a way to save time here because we're not even halfway done, and we're over halfway done with our time. So, she was a mechanic during World War II, yes. And she does have Range Rovers, yes. All right, so this is Liberace. Liberace, of course, is a pretty famous musician and was a very famous piano player and singer, and ended up becoming one of the more famous kind of like young stars in the world. He's one of these people that like just sort of inherently knew how to play the piano from a very young age, and became really, really famous because of that. And he's going to end up becoming sort of a larger-than-life figure, ends up playing in Las Vegas, and he's in this particular song in the 1952 era because this is when he gets his television show. So the Liberace show starts in 1952. We could just go to the time and then save the rest for next time. Yeah, we could. We could. And I'll consider that. I did want to sort of get at least halfway done because there's a lot more stuff coming. The OG Justin Bieber, yeah, kind of, sort of. Elton John before Elton John. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Sort of the over-to-the-topness there. All right. So this is George Santayana. The lyric here is Santayana Goodbye. Because in this year, 1952, George Santayana is going to die. He was a pretty famous writer, and he was popular for writing a whole bunch of essays that got published in magazines in the United States and around the world. He wrote several novels, and he was pretty famous for using his novels to kind of explore sort of deeper philosophical ideas. He was of Spanish heritage, but was raised in the United States. Is a pretty popular guy. He went to Harvard. He went to Cambridge. So it's a very, very educated writer. I have never actually read any of his stuff, and I probably should, especially considering the fact that I'm talking about him. So it's like one of these people that I know about, but I've never actually read very much about myself. So George Santayana. Another reason why I'm worried about sort of moving on is that I feel like I'm about to lose my voice. So if it goes out, we'll do what we can, and I'll move closer to the microphone. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin dies in 1953 after killing tens of millions of his own people and other people over the course of his life. One of the largest mass murdering psychopaths on the face of the earth. One of the worst human beings that has ever lived. So, yeah, Joe Stalin. Need we say more about Stalin? He is a monster. And, yeah. There we go. So, Joseph Stalin in the song gives way to this guy, Grigory Malenkov. And Malenkov is going to be the immediate successor to Stalin. However, Malenkov is not going to be able to hold on to power for very long. There was a lot of turmoil after Stalin's death, especially over who was going to get to run the Soviet Union. And Malenkov, even though he was a pretty apt leader, was not as crafty as Nikita Khrushchev, who ends up actually taking over. Text to speech. Yeah, we could do that. And I'll just start sounding like a robot. This is Grigory Malenkov. This guy was insane. Yeah, he was pretty crazy. But to be a dictator of Russia, you kind of, you have to check the crazy box before you can apply. All right, moving along. Nasser. This is Gamal Abdel Nasser. We just recently talked about him when we were talking about Israel. Nasser was a military leader inside of Egypt, and at this point in the early 50s, he was going to basically stage a coup and take over as the leader of Egypt. And this is going to sort of put Egypt into the Cold War game. And Egypt is going to play or try to play both sides of the game and cozy up to both Russia and the United States. But of course, this is also going to get them in conflict with Israel, and we already talked about all of that stuff. And there's actually another little thing about them in just a bit when we talk about the trouble in the Suez, which is going to bring Nasser back into the picture. All right, so there's Nasser. This is Prokofiev, Sergei Prokofiev, who was a Russian composer, wrote quite a bit of good Russian music, that stuff that's sort of like flowy and drawn out, that has a lot of that emotion built into it. He is going to die in 53, so that is sort of his reason of being included. Well, they couldn't handle aristocracy, so let's try dictatorship. Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, let's change out one totalitarian leader for the other. And we're being visited by a puppy. Hey, Kaylee, you want to come and see me? Come here. Come on. Hey, come here. Come on. There's the puppy. Hello, puppy. What's it doing? What are you up to? You just walking around and looking? Oh, you found your toy. Okay, did you just come back here? Okay. Well, apparently she came back here just to get her toy. So, I am secondary to finding the chicken, I guess. We trade Stalin for a puppy. That would be a good exchange. I don't think any puppy has ever killed as many people as Stalin has. All right. All right, so here is Winthrop Rockefeller, who is probably the Rockefeller that is in the song, but we don't know. It could also be Nelson Rockefeller or John Rockefeller, but this is Winthrop Rockefeller. And the reason he's probably in here is because he had this big scandal and big affair thing in the media that sort of blew up around his divorce. Do you want to see the puppy again? Or were you just redeeming that because the puppy showed up and you felt like you needed to? I can call her back if you want to see her again. Just let me know what's up. So Winthrop Rockefeller had a big divorce, and it was real public and got dragged through the media and was sort of humiliated in the public eye. And of course, the Rockefellers are super ridiculously wealthy, so anytime anything happens with them, it was going to be a media circus anyway. So this guy might have been included in the song because he had a really bad publicity year. Oh, I could call her back. Here, let me call her back. All right, we can just keep going until she gets here. I think she's probably running around. This is Roy Campanella. Roy Campanella was a catcher for the Dodgers. The Brooklyn Dodgers were one of the best teams in baseball at the time. And he got the Most Valuable Player Award in 1953. So we're in 1953, by the way. There we go. I think she's coming this way now. So there's Campanella. So this is Profikov, Rockefeller, Campanella, Communist Bloc. So Communist Bloc is the next one, which is this guy. The Communist Bloc, was, of course, was the giant chunk of Eastern Europe that Russia claimed and then basically forced to be communist. Here comes the puppy. Come and see me. Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Come see me. Hey, where are you going? Come here. Kaylee. Kaylee! Come see me. Come see me. Come here. Hey, where are you going? Do I need to pick you up and bring you on stream? Oh, there we go. There's a big puppy. Oh, yes. It's a big puppy. Oh, you can't see the puppy. You want to turn around this way so you can see? There we go. Oh, look at the tail wagging. Okay, you want to get down? Oh, you want to fight now? Do you want to fight? Ah. Big mess. Big mess. All right, so there's the puppy. Oh, man, that stinks. So I've got like a little pad thing that my chair sits on, and I just poked a hole in it, but that's okay. I'll be all right. I'm taking my chicken? No, sir. All right, so the Communist Bloc. Yes, this is the Warsaw Pact. This is as opposed to NATO, correct. The big chunk of countries that Russia basically forced to become communist and then stole all their stuff out of. She does love that chicken with a love that defies logic and reason. That looks that she gave me as she left was great. I don't know what her deal is. She's being a mess lately. All right, so there's Communist Bloc. Boom. Okay, so this is Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn was sort of involved in the whole McCarthyism scandal, and he was Joseph McCarthy's personal lawyer. And at the particular moment that we're talking about, we have sort of just crossed over into 1954. And when the military hearings went down and McCarthy sort of shamed himself on public television and everybody sort of turned against him, Roy Cohn sort of bailed ship. And Cohn had been like his right-hand man in setting up a lot of this stuff. And when Cohn bailed on McCarthy, a lot of people saw that as like the sort of the rats fleeing the sinking ship moment. So Roy Cohn becoming a private lawyer and abandoning McCarthy was like, oh crap, it's getting bad for McCarthy if his lieutenants are all bailing on him. All right, here we go. This is Juan Perón. Juan Perón was the president of Argentina. And Juan Perón is unfortunately not going to be president for much longer after that. He is the target of a coup that's led against him by a guy named Salvador Allende. And his Juan Perón, of course, Evo Perón, if you're familiar. And Perón was not Allende. I'm sorry, I'm losing my brain here. Oh, good gracious. He falls to a coup. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Yeah, that guy. Allende is in Chile, not Argentina. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm losing my flippin' mind. Anyway, Perón ends up losing political power, even though he was a very popular leader, and is unfortunately not going to be around much longer after that. All right, so here we go. This is Toscani. So the line here goes Con Perón, Toscani, Dacron, or anyway. I can't remember how all the lyrics go. I tried to learn all the lyrics to the song. I do not know all the lyrics to the song. If Cave Geek is here or were here, I think he knows all of the words to the song. Okay, so I see that Cave Geek is here. So, Cave, why aren't you singing? Yeah, Allende was in Chile. I apologize, JMR. I lost my brain, and I don't know where to find it. Anyway, Toscani. Toscani was the conductor for the New York Symphony Orchestra that played on NBC Network. And I know that seems like not such a big deal in today's world, right? Like, who wants to watch an orchestra on television? But no, for real, this was a big deal. Like the NBC radio station and the NBC television station, like their symphony orchestra was like completely blown out. Like everybody loved these people, and Tosiani was very clearly Augusto Pinochet, right? So Allende gets elected in Chile, and then the CIA doesn't like him and convinces Pinochet to rebel against him, and then Allende kills himself rather than turn himself over to Pinochet. So I know the story, but I was conflating them. You would totally watch John Williams conduct the Skywalker Symphony Orchestra. Yeah, exactly. Are the lyrics not written down somewhere? I'm sure they are, Batbird. I'm just trying to. I was trying to learn all the lyrics as a gesture of goodwill. I did not. I have my outline here that I'm sort of talking off of. All right, so Toscanini. Anyway, there we go. So Dacron. This is something I literally did not know anything about. I actually did have to sort of look up what the devil Dacron was. Like, I did not know. Dacron is basically polyester fiber. It's a plastic-based... I don't know what is happening here with my... Something is going just absolutely crazy on OBS right now, and it looks like I'm staring blankly at the wall. I'm looking at OBS trying to figure out why it's losing its ever-loving mind. Anyway, you're trying to memorize all of that? More power to you. Well, you know, yes, PET bottles, exactly. So it is a type of plastic that can be turned into fiber, but also these little... basically any of the plastic bottles that you know of. Like if you've gone to get a soda or a bottle of water, that all starts sort of as this little blank and it sort of gets sucked out. You're the first person that acknowledged or know that in recent time. Are you talking about Argentina? Or I'm sorry, Chile? Are you talking about Chile? Yeah, I mean, I try to keep up with history, but I can't always keep it straight in my head. There's a lot of stuff up there. There's a lot of stuff up there. And it gets all sideways sometimes. Okay, now that I have... No, don't do that. Dacron, that's all I was trying to do. All I was trying to do is type that. And it's upside down. Why are you inverted? Why are you inverted? And why are you sideways? Good gracious. Dacron. That's all I was trying to do, is type Dacron. And now I'm done with it. So, I don't even know why I bothered so much. All right, Dien Bien Phu, which is this particular... The photo here is from the fall of Dien Bien Phu, when the French forces inside of Vietnam are basically going to lose their junk. Dien Bien Phu, I guess, is the correct way to pronounce that. Vietnam War prequel. Well, this is actually the beginning of the Vietnam War. This is one of the things that gets America involved. The French had tried to reclaim what they called Indochina after World War II. It did not go very well. Those areas wanted their independence. France was not really interested in giving them their independence. So the Vietnamese rebelled, and this is what's going to make France go, hey, we need help, and America go, okay, we'll help you, and then that's just sort of the way that it goes. All right, rock around the clock. Here we go. And here goes my computer again going crazy. I don't know what it is about trying to open this particular window, but something with the notes is destroying my computer's ability to be stable. So we're just going to leave that alone for the while. Rock around the clock. Bill Haley and the Comets. Again, another one of these sort of like 1950s one or two hit wonders. But this is a huge song. Rock Around the Clock becomes the thing No, it's not overheating. It's just like again, I've got a really old graphics card, and the amount of stuff that I'm trying to push, that Windows, my graphics card, and OBS do not agree at all. Even though I'm not actually using the graphics card to encode the stream, I'm using my processor to encode the stream. The fact that the graphics card is hooked up to it doesn't like the situation, and also Windows doesn't like working with OBS. And also, OBS is just a pain in the butt. So it's a combination of a lot of things, and I don't know what it is, and I have yet to be able to figure out exactly what's going on, which is unfortunate because it's a pain in the butt. All right, so moving along, we have Einstein. Einstein is included because in 1955 he dies. Albert Einstein, one of the brightest minds that we've ever discovered in the history of humanity. Whose theories are still being proven correct even today with all of our modern science, dies in his late 70s in 1955. All right, another heartthrob, Eisenhower James Dean. James Dean. Oh man, the guy that the Fonz is based on, right? This is the original Fonz here. James Dean is a huge actor at the time. Rebel Without a Cause is one of the biggest movies in the United States and in the world. Einstein dumped his wife for his cousin. I mean, people marrying their cousins is not really that uncommon in history. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't surprise me. Like, oh yeah, okay, cousins. At least they're not the Ptolemies. You wish you could be a big rock star like him? Yeah. Oh, James Dean. Well, he was a bad guy until he wrecked that spider of his and died. At 24. At 24, died way too young. Dean wasn't a rock... Well, I mean, he was like a figurative rock star, right? All right, so there's James Dean. Brooklyn's got a winning team. So here are your World Series champions of 1955, the Brooklyn Dodgers. There you go. There we go. So Brooklyn's got a winning team. This is sort of like the period of time where Brooklyn Dodgers were like the thing, and they were sort of a dynasty of game winners. This is around the time that DiMaggio does his like famous hit streak and all of this stuff. These are the Brooklyn Dodgers from 1955. So the Dodgers won last year, if you recall correctly, too. I honestly, I do not know who won the World Series last year. I don't know a lot of what happened last year. I blocked out lots of last year. It was rumored that the car was cursed. Yeah, I've heard that too, Batbird. And I also have heard that it's lost. Like it got shoved into some sort of like barn somewhere, and everybody's always trying to find the spider that James Dean drove. And there's this rumor that the guy that had it scratched the serial numbers off of it so that people wouldn't think it was his because the car was cursed. There's a whole sort of mythos around the car thing. And I don't even know if I have all of that mythos correct. How many countries play in the World Series? Usually just one, but two of them have a shot at it. So, yes, Jackie Robinson, number 42 on the Dodgers there. Okay, so Davy Crockett is our next line. And this is not actually referring to Davy Crockett the person. It's actually referring to this, which is Davy Crockett the TV show. The TV show Davy Crockett became so immensely popular, and it was just absolutely cultural zeitgeist. Everybody loved this show. This is when the Davy Crockett song comes out, where he's the king of the wild frontier. And this started based on this little guy right here. This is the famous Davy Crockett coonskin cap. That was, believe it or not, kind of a fashion craze, where coonskin caps were the hip thing to wear for a little bit. And it's kind of crazy that a TV show had that level of cultural impact. But I mean, this is sort of telling us how important TV is going to be. You know, it's great. Yeah, Davy Crockett, publisher of his own press release. I used to watch the crap out of that show when I was a kid. My parents had recorded a lot of the episodes off of one of the TV channels. Killed a bear when he was only 3. There we are. That's right. See, we know what we're talking about. That actually came out in 1955. So yeah, there's the Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett, Peter Pan. And you're like, but wait, it's a woman. Yes, this is Mary Martin. And the Peter Pan referred to in the song is actually the really big, famous Peter Pan drama that came out on NBC. Now, to be fair, there was another Peter Pan that was made by this little company called Disney that also came out this year. But I am definitely of the opinion that the Mary Martin NBC production of Peter Pan is absolutely what is being referred to here, not the weird animated version that Disney made. Okay, pretty clear it's the Disney version. I'm partial to Mary Martin Peter Pan. I watched this so many times when I was a kid. So many times. Davy Crockett died in Texas to get away from his financial obligations to his ex-wife. You heard that the name Wendy was invented by Peter Pan. I don't know that. I've never heard that, Drop Bear. I mean, names get invented in weird ways, so it's possible, but I don't know that for certain. Anyway, if you haven't seen the old Mary Martin Peter Pan, you should totally go check it out. It's a really good stage production, and it was broadcast on TV in live color. And I watched that so many times. I had that on. I had a lot of VHS tapes that my parents had managed to snag off of the TV, and I watched that stuff religiously. And now I really do want to go dig it up and watch it again myself, and have just massive waves of nostalgia. So there we go. Peter Pan. Elvis Presley. I don't think we need to talk very much about Elvis Presley, but I'm sure that we can. Elvis Presley, who of course very famously learned his signature hip waggle walk from a young Forrest Gump. Who was he? I don't know. He's just a guy. Elvis Presley, who never wrote any of his songs. It just sort of lifted songs from other people and then made them popular because he had, number one, white skin, and number two, a very popular record producer that decided he was going to make Elvis popular. But let's remember that most of Elvis's songs were actually stolen from black musicians that got paid basically nothing for their recordings, where Elvis made millions off of them. I know that I'm trying to reverse cancel Elvis, but I don't really like him that much anyway. I understand that he was the thing, and I understand that there was this whole like, oh my gosh, it's Elvis kind of thing, but I just don't care for his music that much. It's just not my thing. Shane, if you watch too much TV, your eyes are going to become squared. Hey, Vanity's good to see you, man. I did watch a lot of TV when I was a kid. I really did, and I probably sat way too close to the TV. Wendy from Fwendy derived from friend, Peter Pan 1904, according to the Google machine. Well, there we go. I was unaware. Thanks, Figment. I'm going to give you a title. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to give you a title. He learned from that's what he learned from a young kid Forrest. Right. He died eating a burger. See, I heard that it wasn't a burger and that it was like a mayonnaise and banana sandwich. Was it a burger? I don't know. Anyway, Elvis is a bit overrated. Elvis is a lot overrated, in my opinion. Elvis Presley Disneyland. Oh, look there. It's Disneyland. Disneyland opens in 1955, and everybody loves it. And now you can't even go there and ride more than 2 or 3 rides without paying extra. Beatles are better. I just said it. I agree, JMR Killer. That in the adventure world, that is not a controversial opinion. I would rather listen to the Beatles any day than Elvis. Any day. Any day. Hands down. I wonder if David Peterson was here for me to say that. David is a really big fan of the Beatles. I like the Beatles. I'm not nearly as big of a fan as he is, though. Okay. Other arguments make it a Welsh name derived from Gwendolyn, but you found a very convincing refutation of the one source to that argument. I could see it coming from Gwendolyn. I mean, that's... we'll get to British Beatlemania, but that's in the next stream. Alright, so Disneyland. Boom! Here's Brigitte Bardot. Oh, man. Oh, man. Brigitte Bardot is a French model and actress that becomes just absolutely sort of like the sex symbol of the late 50s. She was in several movies that were French. She was in a whole bunch of movies that got massive global acclaim. Overrated is just a weird word used for a subjective dislike towards the band's artists that have sold in the billions. Well, I mean, I'll just come out and say I don't like Elvis. So I don't have to use the term overrated. I did make sure that I clarified that I understand that he was super popular in the day. I just don't get it. Anyway, Brigitte Bardot. So fight. Flipping the tables and everything. Brigitte Bardot, pretty big deal. Was in a lot of those posters that you kind of see hanging around the guys' rooms. Was a pretty big, pretty famous actress. A lot of the roles that she played were sort of like boundary pushing roles, and that made a lot of people think that she was well you know what the 50s would have probably been like if you had a woman who didn't follow the cultural norm. She was like clearly she had to be some sort of scandalous woman with no morals or values because she was playing someone that was able to make her own decisions in a situation. What? Who knew that women enjoyed having sex? Anyway, there you go. Brigitte Bardot. All right, this is Budapest. So what's up with Budapest, and why are we talking about Budapest? Well, in the 50s, and specifically in 56, the country of Hungary tried to basically get out from under the Russian domination. It did not go very well for them. It ends up causing a lot of deaths, and Russia just comes in and basically wrecks their world. But this particular photo is from the Hungarian Revolution in the city of Budapest, and there was a statue of Stalin right there that has basically been pushed over, and they are raising the Hungarian flag in its place. You and I remember Budapest very differently. Oh, there's a quote from the Marvel movies. Have you seen Black Widow yet, KP? Because you find out what happens in Budapest. Or what happened in Budapest. And it's probably not what you think it is. Or it might be, I don't know. Alright, so the next lyric is technically Alabama. Alabama. But this is what we're talking about here. This is Rosa Parks. And this is her sitting in the front of the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. And this is going to start the very famous Montgomery bus boycotts that are going to lead to a lot of people getting beaten up by white people in Alabama. And this is a key moment in the civil rights movement. And this is in 1956. You were wondering why they said Alabama. Yeah, so this is, of course, it involves Martin Luther King and John Lewis and Rosa Parks. And this stuff it's really, really big in 56. This is when a lot of the marches happen. The Freedom Riders start working. The bus boycott happens in 56. So there you go. That's why we have Alabama as a reference in this particular moment. All right, moving along. Here's our boy Khrushchev. Oh, Khrushchev. This guy. Khrushchev is going to be the leader of Russia at this time. He is a very different leader than Stalin was. And in this particular instance, in 56, he kind of gives a fairly famous speech where he actually kind of disses on Stalin. And this is going to be sort of the beginning of the end for Khrushchev, because he basically says that Stalin was only able to do what he did because all of these like sycophants and lackeys just never said no to Stalin, and that he was going to not rule that way, and it made a lot of people really upset. And this is going to end up eventually having him pushed out of power. Budapest. Okay, Budapest. Thanks, Vipers. Mississippi Burning was a great movie around the death rights of workers at the time. Yeah, Mississippi Burning was filmed not too far from where I live. Birmingham specifically, yes. I love that he waits till Stalin is well dead before he throws the shade. Yes. Khrushchev, we will bury you. Yes. Hey, Vipers, good to see you. You're always welcome to correct my grammar. All right, so the lyric here is Princess Grace, but this is actually a reference to Grace Kelly, the famous actress. Grace Kelly was one of the biggest actresses in the world at the time, had starred in about a dozen movies, and her last movie is going to come out in 1956, and then she is going to move to Monaco because she marries the Prince of Monaco. Grace Kelly. And you get Princess Kelly or Princess Grace here because when she marries the prince, she becomes the princess then. And that's sort of the moment. But yeah, Grace Kelly, pretty famous actress from America, ends up becoming the Princess of Monaco. So she was also the subject of the song Mika you were singing at the top of your lungs earlier. I don't know the song Mika, Vipers. Who sings it? All right. Peyton Place. So, like the book Catcher in the Rye that we talked about earlier, Peyton Place is another one of these really scandalous books. And this is mostly because the topic of the book has to do with... Oh, it's Mika by Grace Kelly. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. So the novel Peyton Place is about a group of three women who live up in this really small, very idyllic New England town, and it talks about sex. So women, New England, and sex, we can't have that in the same book. The women are very much liberated, independent women. This is, of course, becoming part of Grace Kelly. Just post a link for me, man. I am so lost right now. I do apologize. I've had a really bad day. I'm kind of sick to my stomach, and I've got an allergy thing going on, and I also didn't sleep well last night, and I've had a rough day on top of all of that. So I'm just feeling like I'm walking around through mush right now. You post me a link and I'll go listen to it. No. You're good. You're good. You're fine. I am having a very dense time trying to follow anybody's lines of logic. My connectors aren't working. So you don't have to tone it down. You just got to dumb it down for me. My thinking cap got lost on the way home today somewhere. Anyway, Peyton Place, it's really scandalous because it's talking about women having sex and enjoying it and figuring out what they like and stuff like that. And we all know that the world just can't handle that in the 50s at all. So Peyton Place, banned from all of the bookstores, banned from all of the reading lists. I have not read this one, so I don't know if it's any good or not. But it said it sold 8 million copies, so it was selling for 75 cents. But in 56, that's a lot of money though. That's like $20 today, I would suspect. I don't know. It might be less than $20, but $20 for a book today is not so bad. Anyway, trouble in the Suez is our next line. There was trouble in the Suez. And this is involved with a lot of the stuff that we talked about in our history of Israel the last time around, where there were some invasions in the Suez region over here. The Sinai Peninsula was the target of an invasion by Israel, and the British and the French are going to supply air cover to try to take back the Suez. The Egyptians are going to be able to stop them. The United Nations gets involved. The United Nations forces the Israelis to give back the Sinai Peninsula, and this is a big. Sometimes it's referred to as the Second Arab-Israeli War, and it's a pretty big sticking point for a lot of the political processes that happen next. This is a big win for Gamal Abdel Nasser, and a pretty big embarrassment to the Israeli forces. 75 cents then is $9 today. Okay, so I was literally off by 100 and something percent. 75. Okay, so that's even a pretty cheap book. Yeah, I'd buy that book for $10. I could probably find it online for free today. It's probably old enough that it's gone into public domain. You can probably get an ebook for it for free. I don't know. I might have to go read it. It might be too salacious for my gentle southern eyes, though. All right, so the next lyric is Little Rock. But Little Rock is actually talking about these people who are the Little Rock Nine. And this is in reference to the integration of a Little Rock high school that was all white. And this is going to be a pretty big national moment where the governor of Arkansas is going to basically refuse to allow the city, the school to integrate, and Eisenhower himself is going to get involved. Now, I mentioned earlier that Eisenhower could have done more to help the civil rights movement. It is fair here to note that Eisenhower took the side of integration. Now, this is going to happen, and the school is going to be integrated, and the Little Rock Nine do get to go to the school. One of the things that I think Eisenhower could have done was turned that into a national moment and really pushed a lot harder on that, right? Because he won pretty clearly, and when it came down to it, the guy, I can't even remember the guy's name, that was the governor of Arkansas. But there are going to be other instances like this where segregation, which had been basically eliminated by the Supreme Court case Brown versus the Board of Education, was not being carried out properly, and it was not being carried out equally. And Eisenhower could have made that a lot smoother. Is this subject 56 or the entire 50s? You haven't figured it out yet. Oh, so Vipers, we're doing We Didn't Start the Fire, which is why everything is sort of flamey around us. So this was a viewer request was actually a viewer community goal where everybody donated a whole bunch of points to basically go through the song "We Didn't Start the Fire," and I'm talking about all the lyrics individually. So we are about halfway through the song right now. We've got a little bit more to go. So this is Little Rock. This is Pasternak. Boris Pasternak is the next line. Pasternak was a Russian novelist, had written several books before, but the big thing that happens in 57 is that he publishes the very, very famous book Dr. Zhivago, which of course goes on to become a big bestseller and has all sorts of, movies and stage plays and stuff named after it, or not named after it, based on it. This is one of sort of like the big famous Russian novels. It's got a lot of those big, like Russian thematic themes of war sucks and everybody dies. But what's really sort of interesting about the book Dr. Zhivago is that the Communist Party of Russia hated it, just absolutely hated it, and tried to sort of keep Pasternak from even necessarily being able to do stuff like go on tour or anything like that. And then the book won the Pulitzer Prize. And so this is like, oh, you think this book sucks? The rest of the world loves it. And it gave a pretty critical view of a lot of the stuff that the Communist Party had done. So the book takes place between like the Russian Revolution when the communists took over and some of the stuff that happens in World War II. So it's in that weird like transitionary period in Russia. And it pretty clearly sends a lot of criticism to the way of the leadership, and the leadership did not care for it. But there you go, Boris Pasternak. Boop-a-da-boop. Here we go, Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle is another one of these really famous ball players at the time. The Brooklyn Dodgers were sort of their big team, but the Dodgers had that sort of arch nemesis in the Yankees. The Yankees had Mantles, it's like DiMaggio versus Mantle, and who's going to be the better player, da da da. Mickey Mantle was a really good player and had a lot of hits. He was a MVP. He had lots of appearances in the sort of all-star games and stuff like that. So Mickey Mantle. There you go. Moving along. Jack Kerouac. He of the I don't use punctuation. Honestly, I have tried to read some of Jack Kerouac's books. I have read basically... I tried to start a few of them. The only thing that I managed to force myself to get through was On the Road. So Kerouac is an interesting guy because he sort of embodied this new style of writing, which was very sort of hippie and beatnik and, like bongo drums. Do the Brooklyn Dodgers still exist? Negative. The Brooklyn Dodgers moved to Los Angeles. And there's actually a line about that later on in the song where the song says California baseball. That is a reference to the Brooklyn Dodgers moving to Los Angeles. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Jack Kerouac and E.E. Cummins walking to a bar. Dharma Bums was a pretty good book. I tried it and I couldn't. I think I got like maybe 45, 50 pages in and I just had to quit. It's not that I don't appreciate what he was trying to do. It's just that I don't have a lot of association with that stuff. I find it really hard to draw lines between his life and what he was trying to say and myself. We don't have a Venn diagram that overlaps very much. Looks a bit like Sam Rockwell. I can see that. Yeah, he doesn't use punctuation very well, and he doesn't capitalize his stuff very well, and his spelling is bad, and he sort of purposefully didn't proofread a lot of his books, and it's very loose style. And the book that I read, On the Road, is really just about like driving around and having all of these kind of young adult life experiences, like, I met a girl and we did stupid stuff and we stole stuff from this store, and we ran out of gas on the highway. And it's an important part of the cultural milieu at the time. I've never been a very big beatnik kind of reader. If I was going to read stuff from this period of time, I'd be reading a lot of the poetry that came out about 20 years before it. But anyway, there we go. Jack Kerouac. Sputnik. Oh, Sputnik. Sputnik is the first man-made object to orbit National Lampoon's On the Road. Kind of, sort of, but it was more like... I don't think National Lampoon could have done it. They made a movie about On the Road not too long ago that had Kristen Stewart in it. I haven't watched the movie. I don't know if it's any good. But yeah, Sputnik, a Soviet weather satellite, got sent up into space, freaked everybody out. Panic in the United States. This is starting to sort of really set in the fact that Russia had better missiles than we did. This is part of the larger space race movement that happens in the 50s and 60s. Oh, crud. There's a really good movie. Is it called Rocket Boys? There's a movie about some guys in some young high school kids in Kentucky. And it starts in the year that, in 57, by the way, this is 1957, where Sputnik first got launched. And October Sky, yes, that's so good. That's a great movie. Yeah, I like that movie a lot. And I just can't remember the words because, like, brain fog. Yeah, October Sky is a really good movie. And Sputnik sort of plays the catalyst role in the movie of getting the young boys to get interested in rockets. And then a lot of them go on to, like, work in or at NASA and rocket propulsion stuff. Or at least one of them does. So, pretty good movie. It's also a really good movie about the impact that good teachers can have on students. And I take that pretty close to heart. October Sky is an anagram of Rocket Boys. Well, now I just feel silly that I never put that together. Thanks, Kelly. Also, hey, Kelly, how are you? I don't think I said hello when you came in. That's interesting stuff. There we go. All right. So, Sputnik. Now we have Zhou Enlai. Okay, so here's the deal. When Mao Zedong ends up taking over, he has a whole bunch of people that are more or less his underlings, both put on surveillance and... Oh, how do I say this? Like, if you know how crazy and paranoid Stalin was, Mao Zedong is just as crazy and paranoid, if not more crazy and paranoid. And Zhou Enlai, this gentleman right here, was the premier. The premier in China is kind of like the prime minister. So Chairman Mao was still chairman, right? He was the chairman of the Communist Party, and he basically did everything that he wanted to in his own little way. But Zhou Enlai was a pretty big deal, and he is going to be sort of in the loop of the people that are aware of how crazy Mao is, but also are not necessarily interested in pushing back on him. He is going to be... Zhou Enlai is one of the guys that sort of manages to get the Korean War to kind of officially come to a standstill. He does a lot of stuff in 54 and 55 that kind of calm tensions down in Korea. But he's in the song right now in 57 because there were several different assassinations attempts against this guy because he was just enough different than Mao to kind of stick out, and Mao even though Zhou Enlai had sort of helped engineer Mao's rise to power, there were people that wanted him dead. So he manages to survive. He does end up living for quite some time, and in the 70s is actually going to be one of the bigger leaders of China after Mao retires and then subsequently dies. Rocket Man burning out his fuse out there alone. Exactly. You still remember the nozzle from that movie? Yeah. I think it's going to be a long time. It's only paranoid if no one is actually after you. Well, that's fair. And there were people after Mao. Gotta find a better way. Oh, you all. All right. Last one for this go round. Bridge on the River Kwai. Bridge on the River Kwai is a good old fashioned war movie, and it's got all sorts of the. Well, I don't know if it's okay. So war in that it's okay. Let me just shut up and start over again. The Bridge on the River Kwai is a book originally. A book. And then it gets adapted into a screenplay. And the screenplay became super popular and ends up winning basically all of the Oscars that year. And the movie itself is about POWs in World War II that are basically trying to and being forced to build this bridge. And it's pretty brutal. It's got a lot of people that you might recognize, like Alec Guinness in it. And it won like Best Picture and Best Actor and Best Director. It won all like the big Oscars that year. It is a pretty tough movie to watch, partially because it's long, but also because it's just got some rough stuff in it. I mean, it's a movie about prisoners of war, right? So the Japanese are not known for their kind treatment to prisoners of war. So you can just sort of use your imagination. Officers will not work. There we go. The Bridge is a book. The book is a screenplay. Yeah, Foggage, I'm sorry, man. Also, hey, Foggage, good to see you. I have been a bit out of it all night tonight. All right. So that was just at 2 hours, and we are halfway done with the song. So I feel somewhat justified. I'm here now. We can all go home. Tuna, you are dead on, because I am about to wrap it up. I am about to wrap it up. It has been a kind of a tough go from the get-go tonight. Even getting off the ground and getting the stream going was a bit kind of crazy. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I feel like we need Shane to sing the song now. I don't know if I could sing the song right now. I am functionally about to lose my voice. I have reverted to speaking from the diaphragm pushing instead of from my throat, which is a stage technique, to literally force out the voice. I need to go take a nap, and perhaps an all-night long nap. Yeah, so we're only halfway through with the song. We've still got this much more that we're going to do tomorrow afternoon. So hang around tomorrow afternoon. Normally, I would stick around and do some chitty-chatty kind of stuff and goof off and, ask for all that stuff. But I think we're just going to go ahead and do a raid. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might have some coffee. I don't know. If I have coffee, I might not go to sleep. I'm tired. We'll see what happens. But thank you all for hanging out. And also, thanks to everybody that donated points towards doing this. While it was a very troublesome stream to put together, it was a lot, and I actually learned quite a bit from it. So, yeah, I got to look up some stuff that I didn't know and read some stuff that I didn't know and listen to some music that I didn't know. So, You all are awesome for both coming up with this and then doing it. So we're going to go raid, and we're going to go raid Adventure Ren. We have not raided Ren in quite some time. Ren is currently doing some digital art, so we're going to go show Ren some love, and I hope you all have a good one. Remember that we will be back tomorrow with our second part of the stream here. And this is kind of a weird thing that I do 2 really long streams back to back. Wait a second, is that Crush Builds on? Well, yeah, we're still going to go raid Ren. I said it. We're going to do it. Such is life. Okay. I don't want to listen to that, though. All right, so we're going to go raid Ren. Our battle cry is adventure. And if you have those lovely adventure hat emotes, you can throw those in the chat. I will see you all tomorrow. We are doing it at a special time. It is not at 1900 Central Standard Time. We're going to do it earlier in the afternoon at 1400 Central Standard Time. So that's 2 o'clock Central for those not familiar with military time. And yeah, because I want to sort of have a night tomorrow night. When I have to stream, it takes up a big chunk, and I wanted to have an actual like Friday night. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go raid Ren. Hope everybody had a good one. And yeah. I wonder who's more immature, us or Shane's students. Do an impression of a person ending the stream and going to bed. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll do that. So you all take it easy, and I will see you all around next time.